Hello friends, I am Dr. Nitin Naik from the Department of Structural Engineering, Sanjeevani College of Engineering, Kopargaon. Now dear friends, in this video we will discuss about strains against, but before that let us take a recap. The three displacement components and six rectangular strain components are related by the six strain displacement relations given below. So we have in the last video we have already discussed about these six equations and how these equations are derived. One can determine the six strain components from the three displacement components easily using differentiation only. We also discussed about this process. If the three displacement components are given u, v and w, easily we can calculate epsilon x, epsilon y and epsilon z by taking differentiation. Similarly, we can also calculate the strain gamma xy, gamma yz and gamma xz simply by using differentiation. But the reverse, that is determination of three displacement components from six strain, is complicated as it involves integrating the six equations. But if somebody asks us to calculate u, v and w from the strain, then we have to use integration and then it will be a complicated problem. Here the six equations relating the six strain components to each other are developed, and these equations are called as strain compatibility equations or continuity equations. Now in general, in any problem of elasticity there are 15 unknowns. So these 15 unknowns are u, v, w. These are the displacements in x, y and z directions respectively. Sigma x, sigma y, sigma z. These are the stresses, normal stresses. Tau xy, tau xz and tau yz. These are the shear stresses. Epsilon x, epsilon y, epsilon z. These are the strains. Gamma xy, gamma xz and gamma yz. These are the shear strains. So these are the 15 unknowns, and thus to solve the problem of elasticity we must have 15 equations with us. So let us discuss about the same. Now strain compatibility equations are called as continuity equations. Now we know that epsilon x is equal to del by u by del by x, epsilon y is equal to del by v by del by y, gamma xy is equal to del by u by del by y plus del by v by del by x. So initially we will consider these three equations, epsilon x, epsilon y and gamma xy. Now let us differentiate epsilon x with respect to y. See, this is very important. We are differentiating epsilon x with respect to y. Okay, so this is first differentiation of epsilon x with respect to y, and right hand side will be equal to del by 2u by del by x into del by y. Right, now again differentiating this equation with respect to y. So del by 2 epsilon x by del by y square is equal to del by 3u by del by x into del by y square. Now here we will take del by u by del by y in bracket. So outside there is del by 2 by del by x into del by y. Similarly, we can differentiate epsilon y with respect to x twice, and we will have this result. And thus we are having the first relationship and this is the second relationship. Now, if we add these two equations, which two equations? The first one and the second one. If we add these two equations, let us say the left hand side is equal to del by u by del by y plus del by v by del by x in bracket, and outside this is the term outside the bracket, and right hand side is equal to del by 2 gamma xy by del by x into del by y. Now this term is nothing but it is derived from this last equation. If you differentiate this equation with respect to x and then again with respect to y, you will have this particular relationship, and hence this equation can be modified as As we know, dabba u by dabba y plus dabba v by dabba x. These are the differentiation of u with respect to y and v with respect to x. Okay. So here we can rewrite the equation like this. Dabba 2 epsilon x by dabba y square plus dabba 2 epsilon y by dabba x square is equal to dabba 2 gamma xy by dabba x into dabba y. Okay. Now here this is the first equation which we have derived from these three equations, epsilon x, epsilon y and gamma xy. Again I will brief the procedure. First select these three equations. Differentiate epsilon x with respect to y twice. You will have first equation. Differentiate epsilon y with respect to x twice. You will have this equation. Then simply add these two equations. Simply add these two equations. Adding these two equations, we can write the left hand side like this. Addition of these two equations, and thus we can derive this particular equation. So here this is the first set of equation. Similarly, considering the second set epsilon y, epsilon z and gamma yz, and third set epsilon z, epsilon x and epsilon zx, we can derive remaining two equations. We can derive remaining two equations, these two equations. Okay, and above equation establish the condition among the linear strain. So these are the three more equations. We have already derived few equations. Now we are having these three equations. See, this first equation alternatively it can be derived using this method. Gamma xy, we know this equation gamma xy is equal to dabba u by dabba y plus dabba v by dabba x. Differentiate this equation with respect to y. So this is differentiation with respect to y. Again differentiate this equation with respect to x. Now we are having this form of equation. So left hand side is as it is, okay, and right hand side is modified as dabba 2 by dabba y square into bracket dabba u by dabba x plus into bracket dabba v by dabba y, and outside the bracket dabba 2 by dabba x square. Dabba u by dabba x is nothing but epsilon x, and this is nothing but epsilon y, and hence we are having the same result. We are having this result, same result here. So this is the alternative method with which we can derive these two equations. For second equation, you can consider gamma yz and differentiate gamma yz with respect to y, then with respect to z, you will have the second equation, and similarly the third equation can be derived. So any one method you can use. Either you take differentiation like this and add these two equations, or simply you differentiate this equation twice with respect to x and with respect to y, you will having the same result. So these are the three equations, three more equations which we have derived. Now this is the second way of differentiating the equations. We know gamma xy is equal to dabba u by dabba y plus dabba v by dabba x. Gamma yz is equal to dabba v by dabba z plus dabba w by dabba y. Gamma xz is equal to dabba u by dabba z plus dabba w by dabba x. Now differentiating the first equation with respect to z. First equation is gamma xy. See, gamma xy. So let us differentiate it with respect to z is equal to d2u by dabba z into dabba y. Differentiating the second term with respect to z, d2v by dabba z into dabba x. The second equation is of gamma yz. Differentiate it with respect to x. So this is the left hand side, and dabba 2 v by dabba x into dabba z. This is the term. Then again differentiate the third term with respect to x. Now the third equation is for gamma xz. So differentiate it with respect to y. And thus now we are having these three equations. Now further, what we will do, we are having these three equations with us through differentiation. Now we will add the last two equations. These two equations we will add, and we will subtract the first equation from the addition. So let us add these two equations. So this is the first equation. Okay, so left hand side is written here. This is the second equation. So left hand side of the equation is added minus the first equation. So this equation is deducted from the addition of these two equations, right? Is equal to. Now what will be the right hand side? Now if we add these two equations, here this is the term dabba 2w by dabba x into dabba y, dabba 2w by dabba y into dabba x. So this term is appearing here for two times, and we are adding these two equations. So two times this term is there, and we are deducting the first equation. So here dabba 2 v by dabba x into dabba z, and this term will get cancelled, this term and this term will get cancelled. So right hand side is only 2 times dabba 2w by dabba x into dabba y, right? Now again let us differentiate it with respect to z, with respect to z. Now if we differentiate the left hand side with respect to z, now dabba z will appear in the denominator. Okay, and the order is 2 because this is again double integration, differentiation for second time, and this is the third term, and the right hand side will be equal to 2 into dabba 3w by dabba x into dabba y into dabba z, right? Now what will happen here, this term is equal to, now I am writing this term again to the left hand side, 2 times dabba 3w by dabba x into dabba y into dabba z is equal to 2 times. Now I will replace dabba w by dabba z from this equation by epsilon z. Okay, and now 2 will get cancelled. So it gives us the relationship between dabba 3w by dabba x into dabba y into dabba z and epsilon z is equal to dabba 2 epsilon z by dabba x into dabba y. And here we will replace this right hand side, of the equation by this term, like this. Here it is replaced, and the left hand side, it remains as it is. Okay, now by doing the cyclic change in letters, other two equations can be written, like this. And thus we are again having three more equations, with us. So these equations we have derived previously, and these three equations now we have derived here. So these 3 plus these three equations, these are the six equations, these three equations plus the remaining three equations. So these six equations are called as Saint Venant's equations of compatibility. Now I will request you to derive the second equation, as well as the third equation by following the same process. Here we have added last two equations and we have deducted the first one. So performing the cyclic operation, you can derive the remaining two equations. if there is a question in the examination about derivation of Saint Venant equations, then you have to solve the problem completely. You should not write, as far as possible, you should not write like this: by doing cyclic change in letters other two equations can be written. No, you should show the actual derivation in your answer sheet. So this is all about the Saint Venant equations. So now we are having 6 Saint Venant equations, okay, with us. Now in the next video we will extend this topic further. Thank you.